Hello, and welcome back to the Mead Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and this week I'm joined by...
Joe.
Welcome, Joe. Welcome to your first one-on-one.
Why, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right then, so on to today. This is the second episode in our Forging the Narrative series, where I sit down one-on-one with each member of the Mead Gaming team to explore the lore behind their Legions Imperialis armies. Last episode, we explored John's Dark Angels and their allies. Today, we turn to the darker side, possibly of the Omnissiah, possibly not. Joe is building a force of corrupted tech priests and heretics, a Dark Mechanicum army forged for the Age of Darkness. Together, we'll unravel the history of this blasphemous forge world, its dark gods, and the war machines it unleashes across the galaxy. So we are going to be checking out what your new army is going to be, as it was kind of stealth revealed to me a few weeks ago. So I'll be interested to see what comes of this idea and this new army. So, but before we do that, shall we head over to Tankard Talk and have a look at some new stuff?
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
All right then, I'll see you over there in just a moment.
See you in Tankard Talk.
And welcome to the Tankard Talk, where we drink from tankards or tankard adjacent things and talk hobby.
They have fancy goblet.
Not bad. I think a goblet is just as fitting as a tankard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully one day we'll actually get like a proper bar set up and we can actually sit at a bar in a mead hall.
Oh, that would be fancy. That would be really good.
That would be the goal. But we don't have that now, so let's have a look at what we do have now, or what we are potentially doing. Because I know that what you've sent me isn't something you've actually done yet, so to speak.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at what we have here.
Yeah.
Explain.
So, I had a little bit of inspiration recently to... So, I've pretty much 40k scale-wise kind of done all my Tyranids. I've got a good sort of 3,500 points of them now. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was maybe time to have a look at starting another army, since I am, notoriously indecisive.
I was going to say, you're not going back to finish another army, you're going to start a whole new one.
No, I'm going to start a whole new one. Yeah. And I've got a friend that absolutely just does a whole lot of Chaos Marines, as do you. Actually, I need to introduce you at some point, because they are also very much a fan of the Thousand Suns. So, but we were talking about Chaos stuff and things, and with the new Chaos Knight reveal and things. And I just kind of thought about how little of a conversion it would need to be to make Sisters of Battle into Wordbearers. And yeah.
So, are we looking at a literal Chaos Sisters force? Or is this like a bridge to another project?
So, the idea that I had would be essentially a Chaos Sisters force that would be able to be played. John gave me the idea of a way to play it as both Chaos Marines and as Sisters, depending on what unique units I would like to have. So if I wanted more Demon Engines and Demons, play it as Chaos, and then if I wanted the Sisters specific stuff, play it as Sisters by having them on magnetized bases that then platform to give them both the extra height and the extra size. So that there would be a Dogmata and also a Master of Execution.
Okay, that's an interesting concept. So, when you say magnetizing them on the base, are we talking like you're going to magnetize the models so that you can swap them between bases, or are you going to? Because I've seen the there's like a system or a design of bases where you can basically slot a 25 inside a 32, for example.
Yeah, so it would be more on top of, so that then they get the extra height for the Marines.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost like the Horus Heresy, like Primarch style, where it's like the diorama base that you then slot the actual base into.
Yeah, so you're gonna build up that bottom base, so
yeah.
so that obviously it hides the rim of the original base. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that could be quite cool.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
Yes, that's the concept of the first character.
The Chaos Sisters.
Yeah.
See, now what's interesting though is that I know you've got Fulgrim. So,
Yeah.
So why haven't you gone for Emperor's Children?
Good question. I don't really know, actually. I think because I think Chaos Undivided has more interchangeable units. When I was looking at the lists, it's easier. Like a Dogmaster and a Master of Executions is kind of the same-ish model, but different different factions. There's a lot more faction equivalents.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see if there was stuff you could potentially to do with Fulgrim, because obviously you've got the Fulgrim model, and I feel like it needs to be on the table at some point.
It really does. It really does.
Maybe just a small little like combat patrol ally force.
Yeah. That's probably what the plan will be.
Not that Fulgrim is a combat patrol, so to speak, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Fulgrim is a whole combat patrol.
Yeah, so you build a combat patrol and then just put Fulgrim in. That's 1,000 points. That's fine. Done. Okay, that's cool. Although when we eventually do the 4 Primarch series, you cannot use the Primarch that you've currently bought. That's cheating.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, it's a 30k Primarch anyway.
It is 30k, right? Good excuse to get the 40k one.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going to go back in time a little bit and show off some tools that I've made for my armies for Legions. Mainly because they've been shown a couple of times in like long shots in a couple of the previous Tankard Talks we've done, so I thought I'd show them off a little bit more up close and personal. And there's a couple here that you haven't seen before.
Ooh, nice.
So these are my Void Shield tokens, tracking the number of Void Shields smashed off my Titans, or my Stormbird, which are nice and simple. I've basically digibashed these from someone else's creation. So the basic forms are someone else, but then I've gone in and added the numbers in, done the V on the back, all of the greebles as well. Those are all my additions, because I kind of want to make it look like you could hide it on the table a little bit. They won't look too out of place. Yeah,
it looks more like functionally what a Void Shield might look like in theory.
Yeah, or any kind of bit of tech, really.
Yeah.
So that's those, and then obviously I needed an equivalent for wounds.
Of course.
So basically just the same, just a different colour for the main symbols. Nice and easy to spot.
Yeah.
Then we come to faction-specific tool sets.
Oh, those are clean.
So obviously you got the tokens at the bottom there,
nice.
Which are again digibashed from someone else's work who done a fantastic job, but I wanted bigger magnets and more bespoke imagery.
Of course.
So needs must. So I'm quite happy with those. They look cool. They're quite easy to paint. But the real fun bit was the bit at the top, which the 2 sets of measuring sticks. You get 3 and a 3-inch and a 6-inch stick there, and they're based on someone else's design, but I did make them myself.
Yeah.
So the original design is mostly the shape that I saw that someone done, and they looked good. So I basically created something very similar to that, and then added on my own details. So all of the like textured inlay, the obviously symbols and stuff like that, that's all my own design.
Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, and this is obviously the House Dracaran, my knight household.
Yeah.
And in the centre there as well, that game tracker is something I did actually design from scratch. No, that is not digibashed or inspired by anything. I literally designed that from the ground up.
Yeah.
And that does actually 3D print to the point where you can actually just clip it together. You don't actually need any glue.
You've pretty much perfected those, Matt, haven't you?
Yeah. Which is why I've got a set for every army. Carbon copies, but different textures, different symbols, different colours. It's all the same. So that one's obviously for my Solar Auxilia force, hence a bit grimy and dirty. And then for the flamboyant Titans, copied the colour scheme quite literally.
Nice.
To make them really stand out. I'm quite happy with those. I forgot to get any pictures of the Alpha Legion ones, because I do have Alpha Legion ones. Except the Alpha Legion tokens are the original token designs from the designer, which I'm going to go back and make my own versions of them with bigger magnets and stuff like that.
Yeah. I really like with the Knight one, the like Damascus steely panels.
Ah, right, yeah.
With the Titan one, sorry.
Oh, right. Yes, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting a little bit confused there, because I was like, I'm pretty sure they look like scales.
No.
Yes, no, I don't know why, I just decided that textures are going to be a thing, and I've always liked the look of Damascus steel.
Yeah.
Even if it's not real Damascus steel, Damascus pattern still looks nice. Yeah. Which is a common mistake I see happen a lot on videos. But anyway, so yes, there we go. Those are the tokens and bits and pieces that you may or may not have seen in some of my previous entries, and will hopefully be seen in videos to come as well.
Yeah.
So I will share some updated Alpha Legion ones once I've redone the tokens. But since Els is currently borrowing my Alpha Legion, I don't have much inspiration to continue building on those at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Add it in post.
Yeah, could do. Right, okay. So I think that's going to be it for Tankard Talk today. It's a nice and short one. But, we covered some nice bits and pieces. Obviously, a lot of things are going on at the moment. As you might be able to see from the chaos behind me, the studio is still in the process of moving. So, the amount of work that's going into the hobby at the moment is being doled down for the moment. Not a lot of paintings going on. So, Tankard Talks might be a bit short for the next few weeks. But anyway, with that being said, let's go progress over and have a chat about the lore for your new armies. And welcome back to discussion time.
Indeed.
So, today, as we've already alluded to, we are going to be discussing your new army. Your Dark Mechanicus force, the stealth army, as I'm going to call them now, because I didn't know they were coming until you printed stuff and showed me on Tankard Talk.
Stealth dropped it.
Yeah. A bit like the Oblivion remake suddenly appears out of nowhere.
Yet to play.
So but it's quite expensive for an old game, so I'm going to wait for it to come down. But yes, so we're going to be discussing the Dark Mechanicum, because you're not just going Mechanicum, you're doing Dark Mechanicum. So that means you're going to be on the Chaos side of things.
Yeah.
Or the Traitor side of things. And we've already spoken about John's forces on the side of the Imperium. So we're getting an interesting build-up of armies now, because we've got yourself and Els with the Night Lords. So very much on the Traitor side of the board.
Yeah.
We've got John, who's definitely on the Loyaler side with the Dark Angels, unless we played the joke about the Fallen. And then we've got my armies that kind of flip between the two, but probably have to mostly be on the good side now.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's the benefit of me doing that one, is I can fit either way. But yes, yes. So I'm definitely being forced into the supporting the loyalists primarily from the looks of it. Otherwise, John is going to be very outnumbered very fast. So let's actually press on then and have a chat about the Dark Mechanicum, because one thing that I don't know a lot about, because I haven't had a chance really to discuss why you've gone this way to a massive degree. I know we discussed it kind of briefly a few weeks back, but this is obviously your chance to explain your thought process and what you've done and why you're doing it, and we can, if you haven't got firm ideas and everything, maybe we can workshop some stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully inspire you to print some more and paint some.
Yeah. Time allowing. I mean, I have actually set aside some time Sunday that I will be definitely doing some painting. So
cool. That's what I like to hear. Okay, so let's begin then. So we're gonna section 1 of this little discussion is going to be the origin of the army. Mm-hmm. So, what has inspired you to build a Dark Mechanicum force?
So, the idea really came from, with the rules for the Eldar that I found, playing them as a sort of trial thing, and finding the models, I printed quite a bit of it, I started to paint it a little bit, and I was just, I don't know, I wasn't enjoying it so much. I'd had a look at the rules and it wasn't really doing what I wanted to do, really. There wasn't much, like, I looked at sort of like the Titan stuff initially, thinking like, oh, there'd be lots of opportunities for like buildings and things and all that fun stuff. But there just really isn't. There's the main big Titan, the like biggest big Titan that has the is it the Demolisher keyword?
That's the building wrecking one,
Yeah. There's that one, and then that's the only model in the entire like army.
That's the only model that has the Demolisher trait.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
on one of its guns. So,
I mean, I feel like that might be a slight issue with the way that particular rule set has been written.
But yeah, and just the models that I found, I really like the design of, but they are so small. Like, they are about like half Space Marine height. Legion scale.
That's very small.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also got the Solar Auxiliary, and they're not that much more than the Astartes.
Yeah.
Could that have been a scale problem?
I mean, they were scaled for Legion's models, so.
Just wondering whether they were incorrectly scaled.
Quite possibly.
Because if they're that small, that does suggest that they were probably incorrectly scaled.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think as well, I'd like to use some officially play-tested rules as well, and then all the Dark Mechanicum stuff came up. And I was thinking of, I was talking to John about going back to Space Marines, maybe doing a Chaos Force, potentially, or going back to the initial idea of the White Scars. And then John reminded me handily that an army that we really don't have on the channel so far is Mechanicum of any kind.
It is the only official army that doesn't have any representation currently.
Yeah. And of course, with John being loyalist and you being able to swap between the two, I thought I'd add some chaos to that. And also, I saw the I forget what they're called because they have silly names, but the spider things.
Yeah.
And I love those models so much.
The Stalker constructs are very cool.
Yeah. I really love those models, and I was like, I need to make this an entire army. Also, that I really like the style of the Mechanicum tanks as well.
Yeah, they are quite cool, actually, I have to say. Because they've only recently released some of those, haven't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So, a mixture of lack of inspiration for Eldar and a sudden interest in the new shiny kits, as well as obviously filling a niche that we don't have.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good starting point for a new collection. And obviously there is obviously a side benefit, which is something that most of us have all sort of gained access to, is that you're not locked in Legions to having to just collect that one army.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you do decide you want to dip your toes into some Space Marines, nothing's stopping you.
Yeah.
So,
because there is the whole allied force type thing, and I believe that is later on, so we'll talk about that later.
It is certainly. Don't worry, we will get there. Okay.
It's done bad.
Yeah, we'll try not to. It does happen constantly. My conversation with John definitely deviated many times. I think I ended up cutting about 40 minutes of content. That's not even a lie.
Oh my gosh.
So we've talked about what's inspired you. Do you have an idea for the central theme or tone you want this army to have? So that could be in terms of the narrative or maybe the unit composition and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I annoyingly have had kind of minimal time to think on sort of stuff for it recently. So I have just pretty much done a couple of the test models. I have got more printed than what I've actually shown you, but it's not cured and not ready. But I think I really like the mechanized forces. Obviously, it's Mechanicum, all of it's a little bit mechanized, but the walkers I really enjoy. The spider constructs I really enjoy. And yes, obviously I want some of those cool, sweet tanks. So yeah, I think what I'm looking at is a very sort of mech-heavy, vehicle-heavy list. Kind of what I did as the list with the Eldar, but of an army that would work with it.
Bit more designed for it.
Yeah. And obviously there's scope of having plenty of transport, because the transports that the Mechanicum have access to are very much gun platformy too. So yeah.
So a mechanized heavy force basically.
Yeah.
So the infantry probably will be compacted into transports.
Yeah.
Okay, it's quite cool.
Compacted into transports on objectives.
I need to double check the rules of Legions, but I know in the Heresy the termite drills are usable by all the factions, I think.
Oh yeah.
But I know initially they were billed as for Astartes, but I think we'll open them up to being used by all the factions. Well, all the Imperial / Chaos factions, because then obviously that'll give you another option there. Because I've seen plenty of artwork of Scutari and similar Mechanicus units piling out of termite drills, so there should be no reason you shouldn't be able to use them.
No.
So that could be an option for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deep striking is quite a useful tool to have access to. So I don't know if the Dark Mech have much in the way of deep striking options, because they don't have any planes yet, do they?
No, they don't. Currently, there's no flyers, which is a shame. But I'm thinking they'll bring some of those out realistically.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen. I don't recall any artwork of Heresy era Mechanicus aircraft. Okay, well, it could be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But we'll come on to some of these unit discussions a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you said you haven't had a massive amount of time to necessarily go through the narrative of this thing. So this might be an interesting question, whether you thought about it or not, or whether this is something we can workshop. Do you have any ideas of how your Forge world, which I'm assuming is a Forge world, so to speak, ties into either the Heresy and or 40k in its timeline?
Mm-hmm. So, not solidly. I need to look into more sort of lore and stuff to see sort of what's done, what fits and things. But I know I want them to almost be. I think I want them to be almost like a sort of. They are there to research sort of dark power, dark technology. They are, which is a little bit of Dark Mechanicum anyway, but they are less about pursuing a goal other than just advancement, rather than sort of aligning themselves specifically with one side or the other. More sort of anything in the pursuit of getting upgrading, essentially.
Okay, so thematically, their goal is to advance their technology.
Yeah.
Does this mean that we're talking about a group that are trying to just build human technology? Are they trying to integrate Xenos tech, or are they similar to the Imperium? They don't go down that path. They think that's still heretical. Do they get involved in demon engines? I mean, is this a Forge world that actively produces demon engines for the Astartes legions?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They are. When they are pursuing technology, it is any and all technology, Xenos included, demon engine included, anything that will give them the upper hand.
Okay. So they're definitely not averse to stuffing some bloodthirsters into an 8-bound.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, cool. So we might be able to blame your faction then for the likes of the 8-bound and the flawless blades and.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So. Okay, I think that's a pretty good basis. Now, if we were talking about tying it into the current narratives, I think there's one thing that could be quite interesting that you could try and tie in with, if it's something you might be interested in, which is Vashtor.
Ooh, yes, absolutely.
Because I think Vashtor might be your Primarch character, so to speak.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Sounds like he would fit quite nicely into the theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it does mean we've got to try and find an 8-mil Vashtor now.
I believe John may have one.
Of course he does. When does John not have a file ready?
Yeah. I believe in one of the plethora of things that John sent me for in preparation for this army. There may be an 8-mil Vashtor in there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I was. Part of me was slightly hoping that you might be interested in Vashtor, because I was thinking of the three of us I know of the armies already. Obviously, 3 of us have at least one Primarch style character.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, who would be the Dark Mechanicum's character? And suddenly I was like, oh, Vashtor, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's brilliant. Okay. Right, well, let's move on to section 2 then.
Mm-hmm.
And let's actually dig a bit deeper into the idea of the Homeworld or the Forge world, or maybe a war zone that you're interested in being involved in, or you want to create, maybe. So where is your force based, or is it going to be deployed at? Have you got an idea?
Honestly, no.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So obviously, we know it's got to be a Forge world, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're going to be mass producing demon engines and the like.
Yeah.
Or it could even be, it could even be like a small network of Forge world, maybe. It doesn't have to be one.
A system.
Okay. So obviously, we're not going to go into the necessarily the nitty gritty of trying to name these things on camera because we could be here for days.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to imagine the Forge world, let's just say that we'd look at their capitals, their Forge world, where they started. What could you imagine that world looks like?
I think pre sort of chaosification, so to speak, it would have been sort of a metropolis style, like very much a peak of like advancement and things, and then after sort of corruption happening, it's essentially just like chaos. Like,
Joe, I've got a trailer I think you should watch that might help give you some idea of what it might kind of look like, or at least give you a feel for it. Which is the Chaos Dwarves release trailer for Total Warhammer 3. Because that shows you a bit of Tsar Nagrand, which is the capital of the Chaos Dwarves, and they are essentially like the dark mech almost of fantasy.
Dwarves are very much sort of technological advancement.
Yeah, and the Chaos Dwarves take it to another level. Like they're literally. I mean, they literally have they have a unit called a demon engine, and it's just a train, a steam train with a demon rammed into it.
No. Yeah. So exactly that sort of vibe.
So I think you might get some inspiration from looking at that maybe. It's very volcanic, very ashy, very dark. Obviously it's quite Byzantine in architecture, but obviously you don't have to go down that line. But it might give you an idea of where you might want to go with it. Could be interesting to have a look at.
Yeah, definitely.
Is this going to be a Forge world that fell to the Dark Powers during the Heresy, or is it post Heresy? Do you think?
I think during the Heresy.
Okay. So they sided with Horus during the Heresy.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any particular faction you'd like them to have some kind of relationship with during the Heresy?
I think they would have very much been, from what I know of the Heresy, they would have been very much interested in the sort of the layer, and not the layer, sorry, the other one. Why am I blanking on the name?
I have a funny feeling you might be thinking Interex.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Be very interested in them as a faction, and so probably aligned with the big man himself, Horus Heresy.
the big man Horus.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'd need to go back and double check what happened to the Interex, like in terms of whether there was anything left. I can't remember if they were annihilated or not. But it could be interesting. Maybe your Forge world is their homeworld.
I think that. Yeah, I believe they were completely wiped out.
But there's nothing to say that the Mechanicus might not have gone there and rebuilt some of it, and over the last 10,000 years have turned it into a industrial factorum.
Yeah, well, what ruins are really good at leaving behind is ruins and old technology and things to be uncovered. So
that could be quite interesting if they were they were built on the bones of the Interrex. Because I know that's something you quite like in the lore as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. I just find that concept and that faction a really interesting one.
Okay, so with these kind of concepts in mind, is there any sort of cultural elements, maybe from the Interrex, that you might like to help add into or shape the identity of the army?
Yeah, I definitely think the idea, they are not opposed to the idea of like using Xenos forces as potential like corrupted allies, and furthering their goals through that, because they are at the basis of all things wanting to learn and grow.
So is that a subtle hint, maybe, that you might do some small offshoot Xenos forces?
Maybe.
Okay. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I have a funny feeling I know a couple of Xenos forces that would work quite handily with a Dark Mechanicum force. Jakari being one obvious one.
Yeah.
I can imagine there being some interesting trade deals going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's dive into the actual army itself. I think this bit might be a little bit easier to discuss because it's more about models and units.
Yeah.
So we've kind of touched on it already in terms of what types of detachments your army wants to focus on.
Yep.
But can you sort of build out an idea of what an army might look like a full army might look like for you?
I can do you one better. I have a whole list.
You have a whole list?
I do.
Okay. Take me through it.
So, within the first detachment, you got a Archmagos and Aberrant, 8 of the Thalax cohort with Plasma Fusil. They are I believe they're the little thrall.
The base infantry.
Yeah, the base infantry. The 10 Domitar Battle Automata.
Oh, hang on. This is where I need to go to the website and remind myself what these things are.
Yeah. I believe
I'm not.
Domitar Battle Automata are the automata with the shields and the maces.
Okay. Alright. Gotcha. Yeah, it doesn't actually doesn't tell me exactly what they are on here. Okay. Alright, so we got some robots, some infantry.
Yeah.
What else have we got?
And then into the second detachment, 18 Krios battle tanks. That is 2 squads of 9.
18? 18?
Yep.
They come in boxes of 4, you realise?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And then 4 Karakanos assault tanks.
Oh, hang on, I might have been wrong. Oh, no, sorry. The Krios ones are 6.
Yeah.
The Karakanos, they're 4 in a box. Okay, 18 sounds a little less insane when you get at least 6 in a box. Okay, sorry, how many of the bigger ones?
4 of them.
Okay, just 4. Yeah, just 1 box. Okay.
Yeah. Then the third detachment is full of the old Stalker constructs. So you've got 2 of the Cerberos Heavy Stalkers.
Yep.
8 of the Tenebrax Archers. And that's 2 squads of them. Well, 2 lots of them.
Detachments.
Yeah, that's the one. Then into the fourth detachment. The fourth detachment is another detachment of Stalker constructs, the same as the carbon copy of that one.
Okay. Is there another formation?
Yes, a 3,000 point list. So
You're going for wide formations then.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on then.
So within the 5th detachment is another HQ detachment with the Archmagus Prime, the 10 Tech Thralls, 8 of the Myrmidon Destructors with Myrmidon Volkites. 16 of the Myrmidon Destructors. And then more Thralls.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 of the transport tanks. The Trioros Armoured Conveyors.
Yeah.
And then the next detachment is another identical detachment to that.
Okay.
And then finally, the final detachment, the 10 Harpax Swarmer hosts. 30 Harpax Swarmer hosts and a Tenebrax Battle Stalker.
Oh. That's all I got to say to that. That's a lot of robots. Yeah. Lots of robots. Okay. I need to do some research on what these things can actually do, because that sounds like a lot in 3,000 points. Mm-hmm. I mean, I normally stack at least one Titan in there, so that's probably why it will look so much larger than what I would normally do. How expensive points wise are the stalkers?
They're not too bad, to be fair. So a single Tenebrax Battle Stalker is 35 points.
Really? Is that it?
Yeah.
What are the big ones?
I think the bigger ones are more expensive. So the Cerberos Heavy Stalker is 175.
175 points.
For 2.
For 2?
Yeah.
How many wounds they got?
Good question. I don't have that to hand.
Oh,
but...
hang on. I will get that for you. It's 175 points for 2 bases, a 7-inch move, a 2-up armor save, 3 plus calf, 2 wounds. 2 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 wounds worth of models for 175 points.
Yeah.
You get an extra planar bombard or storm laser array, a Serapos las cutter or a radiation engine. So you get a minimum of 2 weapons. Bypass, ignore, shred. Not seen that keyword before. Very short ranges though. I will give it that. Okay. So I'm just trying. So 175 points is 5 points less than a knight, a Questoris knight.
Mm.
1 Questoris knight. Now, Questoris knight has 2 guns, or a gun and a melee weapon. 180 points. It has 3 wounds, and it does have the really bad ion shields. Well, Mead Hall compendiumed the iron shields to be slightly different, so they are a bit better.
Yeah.
But you've got nimble, network, something or other. I think that's something to do with the way the army works, if I remember right. Yeah. But you've got construct shields as well. Construct shields count as what? Construct shields count as void shields. Okay, yeah. Unlike void shields, construct shields cannot be reignited and are not rolled for in the end of the phase. When the level is reduced, it cannot be increased unless instructed otherwise. Okay, so when 1 or more hits is scored against a detachment which contains 1 or more models with an active construct shield, hits are first allocated to the construct shields. Each time a hit is allocated, reduce the construct shield level of an eligible model in the detachment by 1 and then discard the hit. Once the construct shield level has reached 0, shield collapses and no longer active. Any remaining hits are allocated to other eligible targets with active construct shields, so they share the construct shields. Nice. Unlike void shields, hits with an AP of 0 can be assigned to construct shields if the weapon that caused the hit has the light AT or anti-tank trait. Okay. If no models in the system have active construct shields and hits allocated as normal. Ooh. That's interesting. So that effectively means you've got 4 standard wounds and 4 bonus 1-use wounds, which you can't take saves on, so they will just drop in theory.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like they'd give a Questoris Knight a run for their money.
Mm-hmm. They're fun. They seem fun.
they look good. I mean, they look. As I say, I think they. I don't think they're. I was trying to work out whether they looked like too good compared to the Questoris, but to be honest, thinking about it and thinking about the ranges that the Questoris have, and the Questoris obviously have melee capability, whereas these things don't really have any melee capabilities by the looks of it. No, so yeah, they're okay. It's probably about fair, I would say. What I'll be really interested in is I want to try a couple of testers where we just chuck some Questoris Knights at these things and see who wins.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm definitely going to have to read up some more on this army though, because I haven't done any reading on it so far. Yeah, that's interesting. Also, the small stalkers, they've got 2 wounds each as well.
Yeah.
Wow. I've watched one battle report with them in, and they did look quite good.
Yeah.
That shared network of shields could be quite handy.
Yeah.
I can see that being very interesting. Okay, so you weren't wrong when you said mostly big robot focus. Okay, all right.
Still plenty of infantry, but big robot focus.
Yeah. Well, infantry are definitely quite key to winning some games. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even in the missions that I've made, the infantry are definitely king when it comes to achieving objectives. Other things can do it, the infantry are better for it.
Yeah. Which is quite nice, because then it actually gives you a reason to take them, rather than just taking full heavy, full tanks, full heavy stuff.
Yeah. But it is interesting, actually, because in Legion's rules, the rules are well written in the sense that even if you did bring an entirely heavy armor force, generally, unless you know for certain your opponent is only bringing infantry, you're not necessarily going to bring just anti-infantry weapons.
Yeah.
Which means that you've got big stompy robots my infantry can't kill, but if I've only got infantry, you can't kill enough of us to stop us winning the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is interesting, because I think if you were to play in that, if you were to really cheese it, I think that the slam dunk win every game would probably just bring as many infantry as you physically fit on the board.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think you'd be able to get through it all. Okay. So in terms of the style of combat your Forge World will go with, have you got an idea what kind of play style or tactic style you lean into?
Well, I think the list leans into, out of the ones that you have on the rule notes, it's probably Armoured Advance, I think.
Mm-hmm. So more of a grinding advancing force.
Yeah.
Are we thinking it's going to be? I mean, to me it sounds like it's definitely more of like a hammer thrust, rather than say an attrition warfare style army.
Yeah.
Because I think if you were trying to go for more attrition warfare, I think you probably lean more into the smaller robots and infantry. Whereas because you're going for the bigger, punchier things, it sounds very much like it's meant to be the vanguard force.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you were, this is taking it slightly on a slight tangent. If you were to sort of go for a list that wasn't that standard list, what kind of list or styles would you potentially like to do?
I do think there is something very fun about the idea of, because everything in the Dark Mechanicus is quite cheap points-wise, there is part of me, not a part of me that paints, a part of me that only builds, that would love to do, like, swarm infantry of Mechanicus.
Okay.
Yeah, not the painting part of me.
Well, hopefully you will pick a colour scheme that is easy to paint.
Yeah.
And I will highly recommend that's exactly what you do.
Yeah. That is the plan. At the moment, I'm thinking like a purple armor panel wise. Probably like dry brush, silvers, something quite simple, and then pick out some details and things.
Okay. Big purple robots.
Yeah.
Bright purple? Dark purple?
Dark purple.
Dark purple. Yeah, I can see that being quite sinister.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be quite cool. Okay.
But not panel lining. Absolutely not.
Don't do that. If you can, stick to dry brushes and contrasts.
Yeah.
Those are your friends at Legions, and I would say most of the time, if you're trying to paint armies quickly. But especially in Legions, you can do a lot on the table generally.
Yeah.
Those are your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's an interesting question for you, though. If I was to set up a mission where you had to siege a hive city, okay, so there's big bastion walls and a big gate you've got to get through, what would your army look like then? Say I told you what the mission was beforehand, you could tailor the list. How do you think you might like to approach that scenario?
Definitely a lot of the big old melee robots.
Big melee robots?
Yeah, the big old... Increase the number of the ones that are mace and shield, like, driving force.
How are you going to get them on the walls?
That's a good question. That's a good question. What are you alluding to?
Well, how are you going to get them on the walls? Because I'm assuming they're foot-slogging robots, are they?
They are indeed.
Yeah. So if you're trying to siege a hive city and you've got a 100-foot wall to try and get over, you're not going to be able to get into melee, are you?
Well, no, you've got to bring down the wall.
So how are you going to bring down the wall?
Titans.
Titans. Okay, Titans. So that would lead us very nicely on to part 3 of this little section then. Allied forces.
Mm-hmm.
So we can expect to see Chaos Titans?
Absolutely. Chaos Titans, Chaos Knights.
Chaos Titans, Chaos Knights.
Feature.
Definitely doing Chaos Knights as well, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether the constructs were going to be instead of the Knights, or whether you were going to do them as well.
I like the idea of having both. Because they fulfill different niches, and also I wanna do some knight heraldry and some making of a knight faction.
Well, we've got some files for Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
Kindly sent in to us by one of our subscribers, so I can send those your way.
Very nice.
So you got some Chaos Knights you can print.
Yeah.
Also, have you got any files for Chaosifying Titans yet?
I have not yet.
I haven't got them because they are paid for files, but I know a designer that has got a full range of armor panels designed for converting the Titans into Chaos Titans.
Very nice.
So they've got all like the Chaos trim and spikes and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can Chaosify some GW Titans.
Nice.
So I'll link you those as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at least we'll see some Titans on the table that aren't just mine. Yeah. So I know John's going to do some as well. I've been trying to convince Els to do some Titans, but for some reason she just doesn't want to do Titans.
No.
And I don't understand
I don't know
why. Why would you not want big stompy robots?
Yeah. I know pretty much the Night Force that I will do will be based on the my other hobby, Empire, the house that I am in that. So black and red with an eagle-esque heraldry.
Okay. So it's almost, is that the opposite style to mine then? Because mine are red with a bit of black.
Yours were red and yellow.
No, that's my Titans.
Oh, Titans.
Yeah,
Yes.
My Titans are half and half. My Knights are they're the red and black.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be the reverse of that essentially.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I mean, I've gone for obviously a unified scheme, but with the heraldry in spots.
Yeah.
So mostly on tab parts and on the tilting shields.
Yeah.
How you do yours is obviously entirely up to you. But that was my take on it.
Honestly, I will briefly probably fathom the idea of doing some freehand and then probably decide not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
I could.
But what I did is I just grabbed transfer sheets.
Yeah, that's fair.
So basically my idea was I'd literally just paint the background in random colours and styles and then just put random transfers from all the different kits I've got. Just to make totally random and unique heraldry. I probably will freehand a couple of like character knights at some point, but that will be the only time I do it.
Oh yeah.
So that's a little recommendation where if you just want to if you want all the knights to have unique looks to them, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. What about anything that's beyond that? Because you kind of hinted that there might be some potential Xenos stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an idea there?
Not massively. I know I definitely want to include some of the Xenos stuff because I think including some of it would be quite nice. I don't think I think doing a whole army of it, not for me. At this stage of them not having sort of the official rules, but definitely including a couple of units in an existing army definitely appeals.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Drukhari earlier, which I think is a good fit, especially with the sort of homunculus covens and things. I think that fits quite nice. Yeah,
and it also thematically works quite well if you just want them as like an ancillary extra little bonus unit or two.
Yeah.
Because obviously obviously scale is a little bit hard to quantify in 40k terms, but they're certainly less likely to be in the vast numbers most armies are in.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have like some sort of fast attack raider type things to go along with the sort of very heavy armor, heavy mech focused.
Could solve your aircraft problem.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, because there are rules for Drukhari bombers, aren't there? That you have made, right?
No.
No?
No.
Did you not make Drukhari rules?
I haven't done Drukhari for Legions. No.
Oh.
Done Necrons.
Ah. It was misremembering.
I have quite a number of Necrons actually painted up as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's one Xenos Force you can already include if you want, because I already have a load with rules.
True.
Okay. So
there are the Eldar bombers that I could potentially include as well.
Yeah.
That do have at least fan-made rules, which worked quite nicely when we tried them.
Yeah, they weren't too bad.
Yeah.
We'd need to run them a few times to get a real feel for them.
Yeah.
Especially as when we first played, I hadn't played that many games now, but at that time, but obviously I've played a lot more since then.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to play test them again. Okay, so we've looked at allies, we've looked at Titans, Knights, Xenos, Space Marines, Astartes. Got any interest in pivoting to a little Astartes dip?
I think so. Less so than other things.
If you were to do it, what chapter would you like to bring in?
I think thematically with what I'm going for with like the whole Interrex thing and everything, probably Sons of Horus makes the most sense.
Now, obviously, we're going to be setting most of our stories in the 40k timeline rather than the Heresy timeline. So, would you do Sons of Horus as in like a splinter of surviving Sons of Horus, or would you go more Black Legion?
I think a splinter of surviving would be interesting.
Yeah, could be quite cool. And again, kind of forces you to stay smaller then, so that you don't feel like you got to commit to a full Legion.
Yeah, and then also thematically, there's that sort of thing of like ones that were potentially injured during the during what happened with the Interrex that have then been sort of found and experimented on and pulled into this Mechanicum force.
Oh, so these could be unwilling servants of the tech priests.
Yeah.
Okay. That puts another spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now there's one more faction I can think of, but it's not an official faction.
Oh.
Although it probably will be an official faction.
Yeah.
Demons.
Yes.
Can we expect to see demons?
Yes, of course.
Cool. I want someone on our team to bring some demons.
Every dabbling in chaos I have ever done has included demons somewhere. Why would I stop now?
Good. That's all I can say to that. Just bring demons. Someone, please. I don't want to play them myself, but I want someone to play them.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, technically, I would, but then that would also mean I'd have to collect 4 Chaos Legions, and I don't want to paint trim.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, there definitely will be demons. Every time I've done a Chaos faction, there has been demons. There will be.
And as you're going for obviously a more Chaos Undivided, Vashtor-led force, I'm assuming that's going to leave you open to basically doing whatever demon you want.
Yeah.
Could we potentially see Titanic Titans? Demons?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That's what we want to see. We want to see some big ones.
Yeah.
Have you seen the brilliant series of videos that Midwinter Minis has done with their literal Titan Great Unclean one?
No, I have not.
Have you not? They've made it out of materials. It's not plastic. Most of it's not like GW plastics. It's foam and wire and putties and all sorts. And honestly, the job they've done is phenomenal. It looks horrendous, but in the Nurgle way.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can quickly find an image of it for you.
In the Great Unclean way.
But it is. They scaled it to the Warlord Titan.
Ooh.
So it is a big Chaos Demon. There you go.
Ooh. That is horrific, but it is amazing.
It's brilliant. I highly recommend checking the videos out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend checking that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so potentially lots of scope there for you to do all sorts of things. So there's no reason for you to get bored with this army.
Yeah, there's lots of different things that it can go down, and lots of different routes to stave off the boredom.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what we all need, is something to cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is one of the big benefits of Legion. It has been designed better for cross factions, souping armies, to use the 40k terminology. It's better designed for it. It works. It doesn't feel oppressive when you've got two factions combining together to fight.
Yeah, I think the scale of it helps with that. Of just like, it really is a legion. Like, you will have forces from different armies allying together, whereas 40k, you're kind of not really doing armies. You're more doing like battalions.
Well, yeah. I mean, not even that in some armies.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, when you have an allied detachment, it is, unless you've just got sort of one unit of it, it is like a big chunk of the army.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think you're definitely right. The scale does help in certainly visually showing that off, but as well in terms of points as well. I think because they've got a nice structure to the way it's been done, and when you put those mixed forces together, you can see that one is the main force and the other is just an attachment.
Yeah.
So that's quite nice. I quite like that. So I think that's definitely a benefit. Right, let's move on to our final section then.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at heroes, villains, and tragedies, so to speak. So we're going to have a bit more of a deep dive into the story of the units. Because obviously, one thing I'd like to see us do at some point on the channel is obviously dip into things like Kill Team and 40k proper as well, and maybe try and carry some of the stories over from Legions into those narratives. So I'm envisioning like campaigns where, yes, we'd have armies at Legion scale, but every now and then we might do a quick Kill Team game where we send
hop into like a particular moment and do it as a sort of Kill Team narrative.
Yeah, which then that then impacts the game, the next game we play in Legion scale.
Oh, I like that idea.
So I think that would be a really good way for us to go ahead and paint up some stuff that's a little bit different, because obviously it's a different scale. Have fun with some kit bashing, and also not making us commit to building, say, an entire 40k army to play these little skirmishes.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something I intend to do. I think that would be quite fun for everyone to do, I think, to have your own little skirmishing forces.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are rules pretty much for... Or there's either rules or there's an analogous Kill Team probably for every one of our factions.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we will need some characters.
We will.
Especially as we're going to be narratively focused and we're going to drive the narrative force in what we do. The best way to do that is through characters, and thankfully we've all got factions that it's quite easy to make characters for. That's the only thing I will say, because although I really was quite keen on you doing Tyranids, because I love the Swarm.
It's difficult to make characters for Tyranids.
Yeah, because it's funny actually, because when you about a few weeks ago, I was watching a really cool series on Tyranid invasions done by Invicta. If you know that YouTuber.
Yeah.
And it got the cogs going in my brain. I was like, I've always wanted to do it. It'd be really, really cool. And I almost thought about it. And then I suddenly stopped myself. I was like, but the thing I like to do is tell stories. And it's very hard to tell a story, like an interesting narrative story, when one of the forces, and particularly if it's obviously a narrative written from your army's perspective, if your perspective is, let's eat it. There's not a lot of story to be told there.
It's difficult to build the narrative when you are the faceless bad guy faction.
Yeah. So as much as it'd be cool to have one, it's certainly not one that I'm upset that we don't have.
Yeah, I think thematically it could be fun to just at some point build up one for the team that could just be that sort of NPC. We need a threat that unites them that unites the forces narratively at some point.
Yeah, I suppose
that might be an interesting idea, but not as like a main force of the narrative, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right move.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into and dive into the Dark Mechanicus, because that's going to be your primary force for the time being. Which obviously might change in the future, but for now, that's the anchor of your faction.
Yeah.
So have you got any ideas for who might be the high-ranking member or members of this force? Are you going to have like a single figurehead? Is that going to be Vashtor? Or is Vashtor going to be an ally? Are you going to have a council of archmagi or tech priests? Or is there something more demonic in charge?
I think definitely having Vashtor as the main. I like that idea. As the sort of main figurehead, and then Vashtor, and then I like the idea of having a council.
So you're going to have you've got a small series of characters you can potentially build.
Yeah, so like Vashtor, and then an inner circle of like the high-ranking cultists, essentially.
Okay, cool. So your central figurehead is obviously a character that is established in lore.
Yeah.
But your supporting cast is your own creations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas of what kind of characters they might be? Have you got any inspiration you might like to draw from?
I'm not sure as of yet.
Okay.
I like the idea that they are sort of they appear as a unified council of like they all have their own differing opinions and personalities, but they present things as a democratic unit.
I wonder, have you read what's it called? The Necron series. 2-part.
Twice Dead King?
That's the one, yes.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. That I'm kind of picturing like a darker version of like the council scene in that one.
Yes.
Where all the Necron lords are together and they're sort of backstabbing and chatting each other and
I love that idea.
Yeah. So you could have like this almost like a really messed up Senate, like Roman Senate almost.
Absolutely.
Of these dark tech priests all got their own little agendas going on in the background, but they're all supposedly united and following Vashtor as, you know, the kind of like emperor figure, so to speak.
Yeah.
But they're all just backstabbing, scheming know-it-alls.
They're all after their own game.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the cult is primarily focused on advancement, and it is a selfish one of advancement. Like they want to be the best within the council.
Yeah. Okay.
And have the most sway.
Could that potentially lead to schisms where certain tech priests want to, you know, supplant Vashtor?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. Okay. There's some interesting story potential there.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of sort of inner politics and things that I'd like to include.
I can see that there'd be some scope there for having like each character you make, each archmagos might be like a specialist in an area of technology as well. You might have one that's, you know, really into Xenos technology, one that's really into bioengineering, and another one that's really into archaeotech.
Yeah.
You could almost have like specialists.
Yeah.
You could have one that's just really, really into plasma weapons. Yeah.
One that just loves fire.
One that is actually just a pyromaniac.
Yeah.
It's got like flamers for hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely have some fun with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so what about any potential... so the next question on here is about historical campaigns, betrayals, or acts that you might envision the faction has been involved in or done. to make this slightly easier for you, because I know you probably haven't thought too much about this yet.
Yeah.
Of the factions that we have, which faction do you think would be your faction would be most opposed to?
I think honestly, probably the Dark Angels. I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you might have some. Could we potentially write a little bit of lore into there where you've potentially come into contact with the Dark Angels before?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so there's definitely some interesting story that could be gone there. Now, interestingly, when I was speaking to John, his Dark Angels are primarily, as of our last conversation, were probably a force of Dark Angels from Heresy that have been jumped into the 40k timeline through warp shenanigans.
Yeah.
And they were potentially having been brought forward from the time when they were at war with the Night Lords.
Okay.
So there's an interesting idea that we kind of played around with, that his faction is really trying to kill the Dark Angel, really trying to kill off the Night Lords, because that's who they were fighting during the Heresy. But El's Night Lords are probably modern day Night Lords and never took part in the Heresy, so they have no idea why these Dark Angels hate them so much. So we kind of had this idea that they'd be quite almost comically insulted that the Dark Angels hate them so much, even though they do horrible things. They're like, why are you attacking us? We didn't do it to you.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if we could almost follow that kind of same pathway, where your Mechanicum force has obviously been at war with the Dark Angels, but have somehow ended up fighting John's Dark Angels that have no idea who you are.
Yeah. Or I think alternatively, another potential route is that the Dark Mech force has something to do with the warp shenanigans, potentially.
Yeah, that could be, actually. Because that, I think last time we were speaking, on the last episode, we were also talking about his force being sort of pulled back into the real space as the Wormwood, which is what Vashtor turned Caliban into. As he basically zapped that out of space, this fleet re-emerges at the same point.
Yeah.
So it would make quite a lot of sense, potentially, that maybe your Mechanicus force was involved with Vashtor during the Wormwood storyline.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that would tie you guys all in quite nicely then.
Yeah, that's quite a nice tie-in.
I like that. That could be quite fun. So it gives you a natural way of coming into conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And obviously, the Lion and Vashtor, I don't know if they ever fought necessarily, or met, but their forces were opposed to each other during that timeline. So
yeah.
Okay, so that's quite a nice one. So your villain has already been established, because your villain is the Lion and the Dark Angels, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so can you present an idea for how you might add in some kind of narrative quirk to your faction? There could be some kind of strange ritual or command structure or some kind of weird technology or mystery for your faction, to give them something unique to make them interesting to explore.
Mm-hmm. So I think within the council there is the idea that different council members will have different sort of contacts. I think I like the idea of them kind of constantly being under a struggle of like which factions they want to work with ally-wise. They can never quite agree. And so there's that sort of thing of like, if they embraced it, they could definitely advance from the technology, but because of the inner politics of the circle, they can never really fully ally.
Okay. So So your alliance is they're kind of like alliances of convenience.
Yeah, essentially.
And very loose.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an interesting one. Okay, that would be quite interesting narratively, so that you could also potentially ally with certain factions as well. I mean, you're very unlikely to ally with the Dark Angels.
Yeah, very unlikely to ally with the Dark Angels.
But there's definitely scope for you to ally with the Night Lords.
Yeah.
And in theory, my factions, particularly if they were figure-headed at the time by the Alpha Legion, I would have thought.
Yeah.
There's definitely scope in my narrative that you could ally with the main factions, but certainly to start with, I think the Alpha Legion would be a good way to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's quite cool. You've kind of got an inbuilt system of shaky alliances, which are quite handy for stories and campaigns.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite cool. Well, that comes to the end of my questions for you, really. So, is there anything you want to add, or is there any concepts or information you've kind of thought of as part of this process or prior that I haven't covered with the questions?
I think those questions have pretty much given me a lot of food for thought, as well as given me a lot of ideas, primarily. So very much, unfortunately, haven't had the time to really sit down and go into it, but it will be nice to go into it soon with those sort of ideas in mind.
Well, hopefully we can do some hangout and hobby style live streams at some point where we can sit and build and paint stuff and actually talk through it.
Yeah.
That's obviously, I'm going to say this to the audience. That is not a guarantee that's going to happen. It's just a thought that we'd like to do, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Okay, cool. Well, if that's all the main points, I think we'll probably move over to the roundup then.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll see you over in the round table in just a moment.
Okay.
And welcome back. Here we are at the round table to round things off and finish up for today. Okay. So we have had a lovely little discussion about your Mechanicum forces, the Dark Mechanicum, and the vast array of alliances you might be able to run with, which has been quite interesting.
Shaky alliances.
Very shaky alliances, both in terms of within your own factions, let alone with the other players of the campaign.
Yeah.
So that could be quite interesting. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you two questions.
Okay.
Just to sort of round things off. So I'd like you to tell me one detail that we have discussed today that you are most excited about developing further.
I really like the concept we've come up with, and that sort of the scheming council, the backstabbing council. I really like that concept, and coming up with the idea of coming up with a lot of fun, quirky council characters, all with their own different agendas and set of goals to work towards really appeals to me, as well as what their interactions with sort of other characters that the rest of you create might entail.
So are you going to be quite keen to do some voice acting for these weird and wonderful characters?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. Put my degree to work.
That's what we need. Okay. So my next question would be then is how you'd like to expand your force in the future, either narratively or on the tabletop. Obviously, you haven't technically started an army, so to speak, but you have got a list that you want to build.
Yeah.
So where would you like to go from there once you obviously get to that point? Got any ideas?
I think, focus it. Once I've sort of got the main Mechanicum force down, focusing on making the little allied detachments and things, to expand out from there would be really, really good, I think.
Yeah. Which allied force would you like to go into first?
I think the Drukhari appealed first.
Okay.
I've seen. I mean, I know of some files that I enjoy quite a lot for Drukhari 8mm scale, and I think they are the faction that I think makes the most sense as a sort of more of a stable allyship than others potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Not that any of the allyships are going to be particularly stable, but it's like the most sort of recurring one.
Okay. That's cool. So, potential Drukhari at 8mm in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be quite cool. Right, well, thank you very much for going through all of that with me today, Joe. It's been fascinating to have a look at the darker side of the AdMech.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to see what they do on the tabletop, having not played against them at all yet. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I'll have to get a tester game in at some point.
Oh well, once the studio's been moved, we'll throw some models at each other.
Absolutely.
Maybe not literally.
Yeah, that might be painful and expensive.
Yeah, very. we don't make that kind of money.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But we could if you subscribe.
Yes, we'd need quite a lot of you to subscribe to make that kind of money. Speaking of you guys at home, I'd like to ask you a very simple question, and that is, are you building a Dark Mechanicum or Traitor Force for Legions Imperialis? And if so, tell us about your Forge World, your Homeworlds, your War Engines and Unholy Powers down in the comments below, and let us share in your narrative experiences. However, if you're not doing that, or in addition to doing that, I would also like to remind everyone to please do the standard YouTube pleasantries by liking and subscribing to the channel, passing us on to your friends, your gaming group. Word of mouth is probably more powerful than the algorithm in this current way things are going, but you never know, we'll see. Everything we can do in both ends would be great. And you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and Twitch, although as I have said in the previous couple of episodes, and I will do for the next couple, as of this video being released, those platforms are quieter at the moment due to the moving that's going on, but we will be up and running again more regularly with those very, very soon. And finally, last of all, please do submit some images for us for Tankard Talk so that we can look at your stuff, not ours. Because we see ours all the time and we're far more interested in seeing what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you all one last time. I've been Jay, your host here at Mead Gaming, and I've been joined by...
Bye, Joe.
Thank you very much, Joe. We'll see you next time in the Mead Hall. Goodbye for now.
Ta-ta.